Welcome to Reflections, a program where we discuss values and virtues for the transformation of the individual and society in general. I am Father George Ehusani. I have with me in the studio again Dr. Inya Ode, Project Coordinator at Lux Terra Leadership Foundation, and part of the team that has been working with young people in various schools to get a better Nigeria by changing something in the life of young people. Making young people come by excellence in character and in learning.
Yeah.
Okay, you are raising centers of excellence.
Yes. Yeah.
Now, tell me, what has been in the last 1 year, what you can say is happening with the individual young people? We've been talking about the schools, but in the life of the individual young people, what's your observation? What's the initial outcome? I mean, this kind of program, perhaps the bigger outcome will be in 5, 10 years, 20 years. But what are the initial outcomes that you are experiencing in these schools?
So there are quite a number of them, where stealing has reduced in the schools. I mean, there's a particular school where, it's known that, just keep something and it gone.
Disappears.
But this time around, there was a bag of oranges kept, in the refectory. There was a bag of oranges. They just bought it for the school and all of that and just left it there.
Unattended.
And it stayed there. And nobody
touched
opened,
it.
nobody touched it.
You mean that kind of thing didn't used to happen?
No. And the teachers were, in fact, the cook of the school was so in awe, so to speak, and she could not believe it. She had to call and say
that you can have a bag of oranges. This must be this must be where we are working with poor schools because in the elite schools,
yes,
that will not be a problem because
course.
A bag of oranges, what do they want to do with it? But in the poor schools, that's an issue.
Exactly, and they were quite surprised that happened, pleasantly surprised. I mean, there are other cases as well. There's a particular really, really great case of a student, who scored. Let's say the score was like 10 over 10, so to speak. And she ended up getting like 15 over 10. She scored higher. Oh, okay, no. So she got 7 over 10, so to speak. And then the teacher actually gave her 10 over 10. And she got back to the teacher to say, no, there's something wrong here.
I don't deserve this.
I don't think I've calculated, I've looked at my score and I know that I got 7. But you gave me 10
over 10.
Can you do something about it?
Take a look at it. And the teacher was surprised.
The teacher was shocked, to say the least. Shocked. And we got that feedback and it just made us. And the teacher was like, why? How?
Why would you come to ask for a lower mark?
Some people would be so glad to even have that high mark, And the student just said, no, it's
Lux Terra effect.
It's Lux Terra. Lux Terra is helping us, and Lux Terra says we should be honest and, just speak the truth.
If you are given what does not really belong to you in justice, come and say it.
So it's been amazing, truly amazing for us.
At one of our events earlier in the year, something that one school called the Lux Terra effect. Can you tell us about it? The Lux Terra effect.
I guess it's the change that they have seen, in the school. And this is just gradual, bit by bit, coming, people being more honest and open to say, I found 1,000 naira, or I found this. I mean, there was a school we went to and some students had actually come to meet me. The owner of the money had come to meet me and was crying and said, Auntie, I lost this amount of money and this is the only money my parents gave me. And I gave it to a friend in trust to say, please hold this for me. And unfortunately, the friend lost it, So we talked about it and I said, well, they shouldn't worry. I'm sure we'll be able to find it. We'll make an announcement and all. So when we met the staff the following day, one of the members of staff said a student picked money
and brought
the same amount that was lost and brought to him to say, well, this is it. So it just dawned on me that I guess that's the money because he mentioned the place in the refectory and all of that. And they are also positively
Pleasantly surprised.
They are surprised. They are so surprised that this is happening, because usually, a student just sees the money and say, thank God, oh God, don't bless me. There was even a case. Let me just mention this because we praise the student for being honest. There was a student who did not have soap to wash his clothes, and his friend had soap. So when the friend was going along with the clothes and all that, the soap dropped. So he was behind and he just picked it. So when they got to the washing place, the friend was like, my soap, my soap. So the boy was like, okay, I have, let's share it. So he shared the soap that actually belonged to the other boy. He shared it with him and they washed and all of that. And afterwards, he confessed to the guy and said, look, I'm sorry. This soap was actually your own. It was yours. It dropped and this was what happened. So for him actually coming out, Father, to say this, it was heartwarming for us. And we asked the friend, he told you this? And he said, yes. Have you forgiven him for what he did? He said, nah, no problem. At least we shared and we were able to, wash our clothes together. So these are just a few things that have happened. They may seem really small, but they are so significant.
So the young people are learning honesty.
Exactly. Exactly.
What about the area of discipline?
And, entrenching that discipline. I know it has been tough stopping the cane in some of the schools, stopping the use of the cane. But then being able to still instill discipline in the schools, on the students without the cane is something that is work in progress. And we have seen some schools actually drop some teachers who were known very notoriously for using the cane. Some students came up, afterwards when they had an interaction with us, they stopped, and it was just words, and it was warnings, and it was this and that. They stopped using the cane, and some students were like, what happened? This man, he usually has the cane around. What's going on here? And they had to ask around, to the staff members that they knew. And, that was when Lux Terra the name Lux Terra came up. And, well, this is what we are working on. It's work in progress. I think it's real work in progress.
In some of the schools, you have some visuals.
Yes.
Graffiti on the walls.
Oh, yes.
Visuals.
Oh, yes.
Are there impacts of such?
Yes, that helps in reinforcing the message. So when you're going into the refectory, for instance, and you see, honesty is the best policy, or you see something about discipline, a quote about discipline and living right, or you see the children even write their own quotes. Yeah, formulate their own quotes and put it up in different parts of the school, where there's a lot of traffic and all of that. It helps to reinforce this message and serve as a reminder to them that, look, yeah, this is the right thing to do. This is a message. Even though Lux Terra is not here with us right now, we see that effect around us and we see the message everywhere around us.
Now, talking about even though Lux Terra is not here with us, so in each one of these schools, there is some Lux Terra fever, right?
Would I call it that?
Or what can you call it? Meaning that whether it is teachers,
yes,
or students, or maybe even parents,
yes,
when they hear the word the expression Lux Terra, it brings home certain expectations, right?
I believe so, Father, and it's a tweaking of the conscience, a tugging, no, not a tweaking, a tugging at the conscience to say, this walk, this thing is the wrong thing to do. So because of this teaching I have received, because of this skill I have received, I should be able to live right.
So we're able to say that if there is a teacher who is some kind of truant, if he hears the word Lux Terra.
We actually had that, not with the teacher, but with a student. A student they were in class writing an exam.
Yes.
And, the other one, in a bit to, do some malpractice, was like, okay, so maybe number one, I wanted the person to, to provide an answer.
Terra.
The other person said, Lux Terra.
And he behaved himself.
And it was heartwarming hearing that, but we don't just want it to be about Lux Terra. We want it to be about the person. And that's why we bring that message about the person. It's about you at the end of the day. You are better off for it.
It can begin with the fear of Lux Terra is the beginning of wisdom, but
It's
where you
about
are
you.
going
Yeah.
is the transformation of the
Absolutely.
individual
Absolutely.
and the school environment.
Yes, because we'll be better off for it at the end of the day. And that's why, we're just saying that it's not just about Lux Terra, it's about everybody. Everyone has a role to play. Everyone has a role to play in mentoring children, mentoring others. I mean, so many people complain about young people today. So many people complain about, the youth of Nigeria today. They're not ready for leadership. They're not this, they're not that. But then what are we putting in their lives? What are we depositing in them to actually make them ready?
How much effort did you guys have to make to get the buy-in of the principals and the teachers? Because from what you are saying, it must mean quite some work for the school authorities.
Exactly.
And in schools where there used to be some toleration of perhaps some exam malpractice, it must mean quite some transformation for the leadership.
Yeah.
Because with the Lux Terra effect, they can't be involved in those things anymore.
Right, and that's what we just keep bringing. I know, as you said, Father, the buy-in, there is still, okay, that skepticism on if it will work or not. But getting their buy-in, I think every school is looking for help one way or the other. Because everyone wants a better future at the end of the day.
So it wasn't too difficult to get a buy-in of the school authorities.
No.
What about parents? Because one of the things I used to know is that there are, especially all these poor schools, such as those you are working with, that you would have 30 people in SS1. By the time they get to SS3, they are 5 or 6. If the school is not going to allow exam malpractice.
Indeed, and that's something we're still working on, and something we still, it's a working progress, and we hope that parents too, will completely buy into this. Yes, we're getting commendation. Oh, well done, you're doing great, you're doing this, you're doing that, but there's still so much more. There's so much work that needs to be done at all levels, and especially on the home front, as you have mentioned, Father. Parents have a big role to play, a major role to play, and we're letting them know that, look, if you're permitting your child to cheat at this point, your child will cheat through life,
and then you lose your authority.
Exactly, because you're saying go ahead, cheat a lot, cheat on. There is no consequence.
What are you going to be able to correct in the child if you are allowing the child to cheat in exams?
So that's why there's so much emphasis, and we actually hope to emphasize a bit more on parents, even though it's not a walk in the park. But then we'll do the best that we can. But our focus is on the children, because we see the children actually testifying and saying to their parents, "Look, this is wrong," or "This Lux Terra taught me this. Lux Terra said this. This is what I learned from Lux Terra." So they're going back home to tell their parents that this has been, the experience so far.
We actually met, Mike and I and one other person who were in Ground Square shop.
Oh, okay.
And we met a parent. So now she recognized us. She said, "Look, what program do you have for us parents? Because my child came back from school and the testimonies is given and the behavior I am seeing my child exhibiting,
Thank God.
I think we parents too we need some coaching." By the way, my child's younger sister needs help. Their own school needs help too.
You see, so everybody wants this. Everybody needs this. We see this happening, we see the changes happening, maybe slow, for some it may be really, really drastic, but for others it's a bit slow. But we see these changes, and we thank God that these changes are happening. But then it's also a call to so many other people out there who are wondering, what can I do? Or who are thinking that they cannot do anything, to let you know that you can actually do something.
Now let's get to the area of the psychological well-being of these young people. Is this Lux Terra effect in these schools and with these young people, is there a psychological dimension? Because a lot of the children I understand that you are dealing with have issues.
They do, Father.
So what, is there any help that you people are offering in these schools?
Well, we do the best we can with counseling, and it's in the place of counseling that you actually find that, some children are really going through a lot of things. if it's not something from home, it's something they have to deal with within, it's something in the environment, it's their friends and all of that. And it's actually affecting their productivity as students,
as students.
So we're just saying, look, we counsel, do the best we can to talk to them, to make them see alternatives, alternative ways of dealing with whatever issues they have, so that it's not just about complaining, but also about solving problems and making a difference, where they find themselves. And I think I was speaking with someone the other day talking about psychological care for children, for young, people. We really don't have much of that here.
A lot of
in
young
Nigeria.
Nigerians are traumatized today.
Yes, I agree with you.
And I can
Father.
imagine that if you have 800 students in a school, 400 students in a school, you could end up with at least one quarter of them that are traumatized.
Exactly. And going through different levels of trauma, different levels of psychological,
Some will be depressed.
Yes.
Some will actually have suffered post-traumatic stress disorder.
Exactly.
Some have been neglected children. Some have been abused children.
They're different.
Some have suffered sexual abuse.
Yes.
Some have suffered rape. Some have been bullied terribly, violently.
Yeah.
Ha.
Yeah. There's a lot.
How do you get the best out of these children?
Getting the best out of them is to make them see more of who they are, looking beyond the negatives that surround them, even though the negatives are glaring. But to see that there is so much more inside of you, there is so much more to you than this experience that you've had, or than this situation that you've been in. And that's what we try to do. It's work. Yeah, and it's not something that can happen all of a sudden. We also, encourage the guidance counselors in the schools to be up to task in the work that they do, and to try and really put an eye on these children.
I have been dreaming of some day when we will be able to run a 1-week workshop on psychological awareness and trauma healing for guidance counseling staff, for principals and teachers.
They need it.
So that they have basic psychological awareness in order to be able to handle problem children that are going through challenges.
Because you see, Father, for me, a child that you beat and beat and beat all the time, and then you're still not getting the best out of that child, it's time to begin to look at something else.
Change your
Probably
method.
there's something more that this child is going through. And I think that training will be really, really beneficial to guidance counselors, to principals, to teachers, because they're the, your first contact, to these children. And if a child is not doing so well, I know the problem of maybe the number of children you have to deal with, then putting an eye on each child might be so difficult and all of that. But if we go out of our way.
Basic psychological awareness would at least enlighten the teachers, the guidance counselor, the teachers and the principal on approach. What approach you take.
Yeah.
You have 30 children sitting now in class. They are coming from different homes. A number of homes today are dysfunctional.
Troubles.
And it has effect on the children.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still remember many years ago, I went to a school in Benin City, and I went with my band from the Catholic Secretariat to play the band, and I noticed one child, some 14-year-old, and she wasn't part of our singing and dancing. And when at the end of the encounter, I called the child to ask what the problem was, and he says, "My parents are always fighting. Even now, I am afraid of what is going on at home."
Wow.
So the child couldn't be part of what we were doing because her mind was at home. And she was traumatized over the fact that my parents are always fighting. And even now, I don't know what is happening at home.
Yeah.
Such a child cannot concentrate in class.
At all. You can't get the best.
You can't get the best out of it. And how poorly parents understand this dynamics.
And that's why, that parent who was talking to you, in the store, saying, when is this training going to happen for us, is so right. Because some things, I think sometimes we just take a lot of things for granted and say they're just children. They will get over it. They will be fine.
And there are things that they won't get over, unfortunately, if there's no intervention.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's why these interventions are very, very necessary to help, to say, look, and also to pull the minds of the parents to what's going on with their children. Say there's something going on here.
I still remember less than about a year ago that we had a workshop for one of these schools, a 3-day workshop for one of these schools in Abuja. And at the end, it was Father Richard that one of the students came and whispered to him. He said, "Father, when are you going to have this kind of workshop for our parents?" I think my parents need this more than us. That's what the child said.
And for a child to say that.
I think my parents need this more than us.
Wow.
And it's rather distressing to hear that.
Absolutely.
Because we cannot reach all parents. And to know that the 14, 15-year-old recognizes that her parents need this basic psychological awareness.
Yeah.
Because he can see that my parents are not good parents. They are not parenting with the right methods.
Exactly. There's something wrong somewhere.
The 15-year-old already knows that.
They recognize it. So when when as parents we just say, or leave children aside and completely ignore and say, look, the child will understand, they will be fine at the end of the day. No, they won't be fine. There are some long-lasting, deep-seated wounds. Yes, deep-seated wounds that will not leave unless something is actually done. But it takes noticing. It takes you being present, a present parent for that to happen. It takes you having conversations with your children. It takes you actually knowing where they are. And Father, you're the one who always says, know where your children are, as Franco Lisa used to say back in the day. But it's not just a physical place. No. It's actually where they are.
Know where your children are. Know who are the mentors of your children.
Exactly.
These days of social media, I say to people, take the phone of your child and see who the screen saver, who is on the screen saver. If it turns out that it is one of these celebrities that has no values, then that's where a child is going.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a hush puppy, for example, on the screen as the screen saver for your child, what it means is that your child is seeking to be a Yahoo person. If you have some baby mama, some popular baby mama, that is the idol for your child, then that's where your child is going. So know where your children are.
Absolutely. Know where they are emotionally, know where they are spiritually, know where they are mentally. Just know where they are. It's not just a physical knowing.
Talking about knowing where your children are spiritually, Lux Terra is doing all this from a religious point of view, right?
Yes.
So even when you go to Islamic school, you are using the Islamic principles to help teach integrity. Tell us about it.
In fact, there's we get awed all the time when we go to the Islamic school, because you hear the texts in the Holy Quran, for instance, and how those texts actually point to living a good life, living a life of integrity, being honest, being truthful. There's so much in there in the text. So it's not just about the Christian text, but it's also about Islam.
So those who are not living lives of integrity are not the best examples of religion.
Exactly.
Because you see, what you see on social media today is, religious people, we have all the religion, but look at all the corruption in Nigeria. The question they are not asking is, are Nigerians living according to the principles of their religion, the tenets of their religion? If they are not living according to the tenets of their religion, then they are not good religious people. They are actually betraying their religions.
Exactly. Because our religions talk about living right, doing good to your neighbor, taking care of each other,
sacrificing for the sake of your neighbor. Absolutely.
Being honest, being truthful.
So if Nigerians are living in such a corrupt lifestyle, or in such a it means it is not their religions that fail them.
No way.
It is they that have failed their religion.
True. And the choices that we have made.
Against the religious tenets.
Exactly. The choices that have been made over and over again that will keep,
But doesn't it
yielding
also mean how poorly religious teachers, religious leaders have promoted these tenets?
Yeah. And that's, that I think that's your forte, Father. But really, a lot still needs to be done about promoting the right message, teaching the right message, not just about, the glamorous life, and all of that, but actually saying what we need to do in handling each other, in treating one another, in living right, in being honest, wherever it is that we find ourselves. Just those, they seem like little, hanging fruits, but then they seem so far away because we are living in a society that, excuses corruption. And says it's normal.
Now,
it's
Lux
a normal
Terra
thing to do.
is a Latin expression that means light to the earth.
Yeah.
Now, we religious people are meant to be the light of society.
True.
We are to be examples of discipline. We are to be examples of sacrificial love. We are to be examples of truth and justice. This is what the Christian religion stands for.
Yeah.
Now, with our encounter with our Muslim colleagues, they are saying this is what Islam stands for. Integrity, justice. So, anyone who is not living a life of integrity and justice and truth is not a good example of religion.
True.
And we who are protective of our religious identity, we must be in the forefront to say, any rogue you find in society can't be a religious person.
Absolutely.
If he's a governor, if he's a minister, and is seen to be corrupt, then it's not a good example of religion.
Absolutely. And that's a message that just needs to keep going on and on. And I'm glad that we've brought this up.
On this note,
today.
we will be rounding up this discussion. I've been speaking with Dr. Inya Ode, and we are discussing the Lux Terra effect in a number of secondary schools that they are working with to turn those schools to centers of excellence in character and learning using the principles of truth and integrity and honesty and discipline and so on. I wish you all success in this encounter with schools.
Thank you.
And hope that in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, we'll begin to harvest the result of this encounter.
That's what we pray.
Mentoring young people for a better Nigeria.
Indeed.
God bless you.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Father.